On July 23, 2020, we embarked on a journey back to China from Chicago, USA. Originally, there were direct flights from Chicago to Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, etc. However, after the COVID-19 outbreak, travel and population movements around the world was disrupted. The Chinese government's countermeasure to curb the importation of the epidemic from abroad was the 5 1s. That is, one airline, one country, one route, 1 week, and 1 flight. From March 2020 until now, there have been no major changes. Before we left, we cleaned the apartment we have rented for a year and sold all the furniture. On the day of departure, friends came to see us off. We wore airtight protective clothing, goggles, gloves, and of course masks. In the hot July sun of Chicago, we looked so strange compared to our friends, as if a scene of Resident Evil came into reality. In the short distance of pulling the luggage to find our car, passers-by have cast a complex glance. The glances were so complex that you couldn't tell if they were curious, sympathetic, or discriminating against you. After all, in 2020 America, it's no surprise that the Asian face is being stared at by any kind of gaze. On the plane, watching Lake Michigan disappearing in the clouds, I wonder when I would next return to the United States, or if I would ever return. I sometimes think about it and realize our route that time was Chicago to Seoul to Tokyo to Shanghai. Does that mean we took away the opportunity for those Chinese in Japan? This feeling of guilt haunted me all the time, but soon it was washed away by the joy of arriving home safely. We seem to be lucky compared to our countrymen who changed planes 3 or 4 times and ended up stranded in other countries, or were sent back to where they left for various reasons. Migratory birds in the rain have no time to take care of others. Now our friends are returning home one by one. Many of them are returning to their home countries after studying abroad for the first time. Returning to China has become relatively easy and there are more and more options. The 5-1 policy is still in effect though. The biggest benefit is that the period of centralized quarantine has become shorter. This allows people to follow up with the quarantine at home. In some ways, this changed the way they view home. After all, there is a difference between choosing to stay at home and not be able to leave the house. Of course, there are other ways to get home, and it's not impossible to try them. There are ways to save money, and there are ways to save energy. Going home is like going to a supermarket. Everyone can find what they want, probably. I found this young lady on a social media platform. She was sharing how she got back home for less than 10,000 RMB. This impressive price is about the cost of a round-trip ticket to China during the summer before the epidemic. I have read a lot of similar tips before my last trip back to China. At that time, someone suggested the Chicago-California-China route. Someone suggested the New York-Amsterdam-China route. Some suggested the Boston-Turkey or UAE-China route. It was pretty crazy during that time. No matter where you were flying to, as soon as you saw the arm-to-the-grills Asian face at the airport, you just know they were on their way home. We will see you on the other side of the earth in about 20 hours. I wish there were more people like this young lady. Some call them modern-day Columbus for those who are opening up new routes back home. I don't think it's quite right. Modern-day Magellan would be more appropriate. Hats off to them. Anyway, Hong Kong is the newest path studied by our fellow Magellans. Before that, I heard about someone who wanted to go to a language school for 2 weeks in Korea or Japan so they could go back home from there. Then there were those who went to Vietnam for half a month to return home by land border. Recently, there were a news story about a young man who took a horse and planned to walk back from Europe for a year. Isn't it so important whether it's true or not? Maybe he would take the horse to the border and then turn back and go back to Europe. I saw this old gentleman on the street of Barcelona. He was so deep, so involved, playing a patriotic song on saxophone in a foreign country. This was either homesickness or lingering. He made his choice, and we have ours. Everyone have their own destiny. But at this moment, we are on the same path.